Welcome back, folks. Welcome to Films, Fights and Fitness, my weekly roundup of everything worth watching each weekend. Now, this week I'm skipping over any fight news. Frankly, I'm exhausted. I'm fatigued. I'm sick to death of all of the banter and the conspiracy theories online around Tyson pulling his punches. He wasn't. That was an edited clip that someone put together of him pulling back his punches because he was scared he was going to get countered. If you actually watch the whole fight end to end, you'll see he's landing big shots throughout, or he's trying to. He's swinging. Sometimes he's catching Jake Paul, sometimes he isn't. But some idiot online decided to edit together all the times where Tyson went to throw a punch and then pulled out because he knew he was about to get countered by the younger, fitter, faster, stronger man in a big ring. If he was in a telephone box, I always said this, if he was in a telephone box, maybe Tyson would have stood a better chance. But you can't judge a fight on a 30-second clip off TikTok of someone hitting the pads really fast and going, oh, wow, he's ready. No, because that's a stationary target. Tyson had to chase Jake Paul around the ring. That's a different thing. But anyway, promised myself I wouldn't get involved in the fight news this week. So, over to films. I've watched a bunch this week, so you don't have to. Actually, no, that's not quite true. I haven't watched them this week. I've watched them over about the last month, but I've been stockpiling them. I think there are seven films. So, in the last few weeks to a month, I've watched Blink twice, Joker, the new one, that one, Trap, Alien Romulus, Speak No Evil, Subservience, and Deadpool and Wolverine. Okay, so let's get right to the first one, Blink Twice with Channing Tatum, directed by Zoe Kravitz, Lenny's daughter, in her directorial debut. What a great movie. What a great Saturday night movie. To me, it ticks every single box. It's set on a beautiful sun-kissed island, which is something I think we're all sort of missing this time of year. It's got Channing Tatum being Channing Tatum. I was never a fan of Channing Tatum when he first came on the scene. He's a dancer and he just seemed like a poser and all this. But he's really grown on me over the years. He seems like a decent guy, and he can be very, very, what's the word? He can be very self-deprecating in some of his roles, and I quite admire that. In, you know, he's such a big, handsome dude, and he manages to pull that side of himself off quite well. Pardon the pun. Yeah, great movie. Great Saturday night movie. Blink Twice. Zoe Kravitz smashed it as a directorial debut. The tension ramps up constantly. The editing's brilliant as well. I don't know who edited it, but they've done a hell of a job on it. It just really ramps up that tension. And as I say, it grips you, it pulls you in to that island, that sort of, they always say to keep the lightning in the bottle in a thriller. It's all set in this sort of remote island, and it's very claustrophobic in parts. But as I say, it's also beautiful scenery. So yeah, 100% recommend Blink Twice. I'd give it a 9 out of 10, I think. Solid 9 out of 10. Okay, what else? Next is Joker, Folie, Deux, which is probably the most pretentious title you could imagine, but it matches really well to how pretentious this film is. Now, to be fair, I wouldn't have put it on the list were I not semi-recommending it, because I think if you loved the first film, the first Todd Phillips Joker film, Joaquin Phoenix, it's worth watching for that alone. It's got, in part, or in the main really, it's got that same gritty, raw, almost sort of 1970s style filmmaking feel to it. And it does take you back to that world. It does bring you back into that. But really, this is the Lady Gaga show. It's a musical. I don't think I'm spoiling anything by telling you that. There's no plot twists in that. It's a musical. For me, it doesn't suit at all. When Joaquin Phoenix is singing, it kind of seems a bit creepy and unusual. So yeah, that kind of maybe fits. Maybe if he did it once. But all the way through, constantly tap dancing, Lady Gaga, being Lady Gaga. That's the problem. She's too good. She's too good a singer to pull that off. And she's also a great actress, by the way. I've seen her act before. She's good. She's solid. But she's playing herself in this. She's not playing Harley Quinn. She's playing herself, clearly. And I don't know if she had some sort of thumb on a scale during the production. I don't know if she put some money into it and said, I'm only doing this if I can release an album alongside. I got no idea. But I can't think of two genres of filmmaking that fit together more badly than gritty, raw 70s style cinema and essentially modern day musical. It doesn't work for me at all. Every single time someone starts singing, it completely takes you out of the film. It takes you out of the vibe. It takes you out of the emotion, the brutality of the film. It just doesn't work at all for me. Some people think it does. Some people have liked it. I think it's terrible. What I would say is it's about 2 hours 20. So maybe if you fast forwarded through all the songs, you'd get through it a bit faster, and you'd say, hey, okay, it was a decent follow up to the first. Which in itself, outside of the music, it is a decent follow up to the first film. So maybe it is worth a watch. I'd probably give it a 5, 6 maybe out of 10. Maybe 4 in its current state. But if they ever do a director's cut, but instead of making it longer and showing you more, they just take out all the songs and give you a good solid hour and a half, then I'd probably give it a good 7. But yeah, in its current state, I can't say more than a 5 or a 6, I guess. I'm going to go with 5, since I've berated it so badly. Yeah, again, worth having on in the background maybe. But it's like I said, it doesn't grip you. It didn't grip me anyway. Okay, next up is a film called Trap, which is the new thriller from M. Night Shyamalan. Now, if you know Shyamalan, you know the films that he makes, you know the types of films, he knows a lot of twists and turns. Like I say, I try and keep these reviews 100% spoiler-free, and that generally means being 100% plot-free. I don't go into the plot details at all if I can help it. I try to talk about the vibes that a film brings you, so you know what sort of mood you need to be in to watch that film. I think that's actually more important than what happens during the or in the plot line. So Trap is I'll call it a contained thriller. Don't watch the trailer, because a couple of the twists are given away throughout the trailer. But if you have seen the trailer, also don't worry, because those twists kind of happen early on. That's all I'll say on that. It starts out brilliantly, really strong. The first half of the movie, again, is this as I said with Blink Twice. And actually, Josh Hartnett, who stars in this, I've always sort of seen him on the same sort of level as Channing Tatum. In other words, he came on the scene as a pretty boy, and sort of over time with things like Sin City and what have you, he moved into sort of more dramatic, more serious roles. And I always find he handles them really well. I think he's pretty good, actually, nowadays, Josh Hartnett. So the first half of the film is definitely that Saturday night popcorn thriller. You could really sit down and enjoy it. I'll be honest, I think the lightning goes out of the bottle a little bit from the midpoint. And the second half is a lot weaker. It's still okay. It's still decent enough to watch. If I could split it in two and rate the first half and the second half, I'd say the first half was a good 9 out of 10 and the second half was more like a 6 out of 10. So what am I going to give the film overall? I don't think I can go above a 7. 7 out of 10 for Trap with Josh Hartnett. Okay, next up, Alien Romulus. Now, I've got mixed emotions over this because I'm a big fan of the originals. I would say they've kind of done that thing like they did with Star Wars, like they did with Top Gun, although I absolutely love Top Gun Maverick, where they've essentially kind of repeated the storyline, if you know what I mean, from the first one. I would say this is more in line with Aliens, the second one, rather than Alien, the first. But it had that feel, that sort of, and it was a really good. This is where I'm mixed. It's a really good. How can I put it? A Hollywood Saturday night thriller, like I say. It's not so in line with the first film, which was just like this dark horror movie. It's more perhaps in line with the second movie, which is more of a audience-friendly action thriller type movie. But here's where it lets itself down. The first one had Sigourney Weaver, and the second one, and many of them, had Sigourney Weaver playing Ripley, one of the strongest female characters of all time, one of the strongest action leads of all time. We often talk about female representation in movies, but I mean, I grew up with Ripley and Sarah Connor. So during the 80s, I mean, the action movie stars were female to me. But the remake doesn't quite have that same grit. The lead actress, I forget her name, She's great, actually. She's really, really good actress, but she hasn't got that strength of character behind her that Ripley had, where you really feel that she can deal with this situation. She's coping. She's on board with it, and I would say the same for the rest. Whereas in the first film was about Alien, was about a sort of ragtag bunch of, what were they, space engineers? Would you call them? I guess, but they were blue collar guys. They were blue collar, working class people who were on this mission. And had to deal with it. And it was very in keeping with the time, I think. It was, even though it was a sci-fi movie, the best sci-fi movies are grounded in reality and grounded in the time that they're made in. And I think that the Alien really sort of spoke to that working class generation in the 70s in America. And then the next one, Aliens, okay, that was a bunch of space marines. But again, it kind of spoke to that, well, partly to that 70s sort of, or 80s perhaps by then, vibe. And by then there was a bit more Hollywood brought into it, so it was a bit more sort of gung-ho American Marines. But the fact was that you kind of believed in the characters. You believed that they're working class heroes thrust into this crazy situation and finding a way to deal with it. The problem with this new one, Alien Romulus, I found, even though it was a great film in its own right, when you compare it to those, the characters are just not as believable, lovable, whatever you want to call it. They're more like... I couldn't stop thinking that it seemed like a gang of kids that you'd see wandering the streets of Shoreditch at 2 o'clock in the morning looking for a rave. They didn't seem in any distress at any point. They just seemed like they were enjoying themselves. Like, I didn't get that sort of, how can I put it, that intrepid fear for their lives, if that makes sense. It felt like they were actors acting, if I'm honest. Which is a line my brother used to say to me, I hate watching actors act, which sounds strange to say, but I know what he means, because it was like watching actors act in this film. It was like a bunch of drama students, as I say, in Shoreditch or wherever, wandering around the streets looking for a rave. They didn't seem like they were in jeopardy. They didn't seem to care as much as those first few films. But yeah, other than that, a good Saturday night thriller, actually. I enjoyed it. It was enjoyable, and I'd probably give it a 7. No, 8. I'm going to give it 8 out of 10. Alien Romulus, 8 out of 10. Okay, couple of others. So, Speak No Evil, I actually watched a while back now. I think it was in the summer because it opens up in I think, Italy. But it very quickly moves to southwest England. Again, no spoilers, but this is dark. This is hard going, I'll be honest. It was pretty harrowing, this film. It was one of those films that isn't for me, if I'm honest. It was more disturbing than I like on a Saturday night. Like I say, my idea of a good thriller, or even a good horror, is not something that sits with me for weeks and makes me fearful and anxious and thinking about all the terrible things that have happened in it. I don't want that, to be honest. I like a good, strong thriller on a Saturday night. The Sunday morning I can forget about and move on with my life. Speak No Evil is not that. This was dark, disturbing, contained thriller. Hard work, to be honest, and it's one of those ones that sits with you for a while after. I didn't feel the juice was worth the squeeze, personally, because, as I say, I'm not very good with that sort of darkness. I don't need it in my life, frankly. But still, it's brilliant at what it does, Speak No Evil, but, again, not quite for me. So I would give it probably... I think many other people would give it a solid 9 out of 10, and it probably deserves it. For me, is it a Saturday night movie? No, so I'd probably go 7. Okay, I'm going to go in the middle, 8. 8 out of 10 for Speak No Evil. Okay, final film on my list is Subservience, which is a new AI sci-fi thriller. You'll find it out there. It's okay, is the best I can say about it. It's an okay thriller. I don't think it merits a Saturday night thriller by any stretch of the imagination. It's the sort of thing you could watch midweek. Thursday, Friday night, sitting down, chilling out, on in the background, opening a beer. It's okay. It's a decent enough thriller, and the message is there. But we've seen this message a million times. There's nothing particularly new about it. It's the fear of the of AI going mad. It's the hand that rocks the cradle for 2030. 2030. I don't even know what year it's set, but that actually is scary because 2030 is in 6 years. Jeez. So I hope we're not quite there yet, but the way things are going, maybe we will be, and AI will start to take over the world. But this is a household thriller, shall we say? As I say, it's very similar in spirit to The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, or that kind of home-based thriller. But it's sci-fi, and it goes where it goes. And it actually the second half, the final act, I would say, is deserving of a better film. It's actually it didn't taper off as it went along. It wasn't the greatest film in the world, but like I say, it didn't taper off. It actually stayed fairly sort of solid throughout and had a decent end. So Subservience, I would give 6 out of 10. 7. Yeah, 7, because the end kept it going, and it was pretty strong then. So yeah, why not? 7 out of 10 for Subservience, but it's not a Saturday night thriller. Not by any stretch. Cool, that's all from me for now. Oh no, I've missed one. Deadpool and Wolverine. How could I be so... Sorry, you've got to sit with me for longer now. Although I'm sure most of you have left by now already. Deadpool and Wolverine. It's exactly what you would expect from the franchise and from the genre. I'll be honest, I'm getting a little bit tired of that genre now. The winks to camera, the inside jokes, it gets a bit exhausting. It was funny when Deadpool first started doing that. It really was. It first of all, the X-rated gags, that was relatively new. But second of all, as I say, the nod to camera, that was new. So it was really fresh and exciting when Deadpool first came on the scene. It really elevated, I thought, the whole Marvel universe, multiverse, whatever you want to call it now. But I'm a bit tired. It's run its path now, I think, personally. That whole idea. It is funny. It is good fun. Perfect for a Saturday night, actually. Just chill out, put it on. You're not going to have to think too much, and you will laugh. But as I say, it's difficult to care for characters when they're constantly looking to the camera and making a joke. It kind of takes you out. When you know it's Ryan Reynolds being Ryan Reynolds, it's like, okay, well, you're not in any real jeopardy then, are you? I actually would prefer to see a return to filmmaking where we do care about the characters, where they don't constantly joke to camera and remind you that you're just watching a film. I'd rather actually get invested. I think that's what we all tend to do, isn't it? Another point of a film that you stick it on and you decide, I'm going to suspend my disbelief for the next 2 hours and believe that this is real. But if they're constantly reminding you that it's not real, then kind of takes you out of it a little bit, I think. Okay, so that genuinely is all from me. I've just noticed this is the long podcast I've done at almost 18 minutes. Oh, it won't be by the time I've trimmed it. So again, thank you if you're still here now. Thank you for sticking with me till the end. And I will be back next week with hopefully a bit of a mix. Now, if any of you are real fans of the show, all 4 of them, 5, you'll notice that I keep promising to do a breakdown of the next James Bond. But the problem is, every time I check the news, every week I go to record one of these, the news changes and there's someone else in the mix and there's someone else in the mix. The truth is the studio don't know what they're doing yet. They haven't even decided what the style and the tone of the next Bond film franchise is going to be. So watch this space. I will get to it at some point, but I'm not going to make any promises that it'll be next week because otherwise I'm keeping it off. There's too much happening. There's too much happening in the fight news. I can't help it. And as for the fitness news, I've still yet to record a podcast about anything in the fitness news, even though there is stuff going on. There is stuff going on. They've seen some brilliant studies recently, and when I do get to them, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that I'm some sort of doctor or some sort of PT. I'm not even a PT. I just someone who trains a bit and reads scientific studies that I see online. I see them all. So you can find them. Anyone can find them. They're on university websites all over the place. All you have to do is read the results of a study, read what it was trying to do, read the results, and then talk about it. It's not me trying to pass it off as my own knowledge. So I will get to some of those. I'm going to look at some of the most out there studies regarding diet, nutrition, fitness, and I will bring you those soon. That really is the longest I've ever done now. We're almost at 20 minutes. Thank you for staying with me that long. Have a great weekend. I recommend blink twice, maybe Alien Romulus, maybe Trap tonight. So let you decide. Enjoy. Cheers, folks.